Hi, I'm Claire Merrigan.
I'm Andrew Shattuck.
I'm Macy Kaufman.
And I'm Nicole Kavat, and this is our presentation on blood types. So what's in your blood? Blood is composed of plasma, red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. More on this, plasma is composed of water salts and proteins, and this determines if blood is positive or negative. Red blood cells deliver oxygen from your lungs to your tissues and organs. White blood cells fight infections in your immune system, and platelets help blood to clot.
So why are blood types different? The presence and absence of different antigens in your plasma determines blood type. And so this is super important during blood donation because if you get the wrong match, your body will fight it off, whether it be blood or plasma. So very important. And yeah. So for blood type AB, that is the universal plasma donor. So they can donate plasma to anyone. However, they have limited donation of blood capabilities and can only donate to type AB. However, they can receive from every single other blood type. And their plasma is super valuable because it can be donated to all, but their actual blood itself, not super valuable. It's also the rarest. So the RH factor determines positive versus negative. So if you have positive RH proteins, you can receive from negative RH proteins because there's not something foreign going to your body. But for people with negative blood types, they can't receive from those positive because it would be a weird unknown thing coming in, which the body would fight off. So like all blood types, AB is partially basic, so just above 7, and dangerous if it becomes acidic.
Okay, so I'm going to be discussing blood type A. Blood type A can donate to types A and AB. It's depicted in the image, and blood type A can also receive from A and O. So my outside connection is what's called factor V Leiden, and that's a blood clotting disorder. Women risk blood clots during pregnancy or estrogen hormones, and why I'm talking about this is I actually have it, so I can't take estrogen, and you have to look out for, there's no symptoms, so you have to actually get a blood test, and it pops up on your genetics, and it cannot be cured. But there are what's called anticoagulants, and this helps to thin out your blood. And as you can see, they're actually just long carbon chains that also contain some functional groups that we had learned this quarter. So there's benzene, amines, and more that were actually really interesting to learn about and how that can kind of relate to my life as well.
So I'm going to be talking about blood type B. So blood type B is more common than the rare AB blood type, but it's much less common than blood types A and O. So B positive blood types can give to B positive and AB positive, but they can only receive from B and O. And B negative blood types can give to B and AB, but they receive from B minus and O minus. Another interesting fact about blood types is that they actually vary by ethnicity because it's a genetic trait that you inherit. So for example, in the Americas, even in Australia, the B allele is very rare at only 0 to 5% of the population having it. But in Europe, it's much more common, and you can even see like 20 to 30% of the population has the B allele, which happens to be rare in America. Another thing I want to bring up is the blood type diet theory, which is that there are certain diets better tailored to people with different blood types. And the type B diet is plants, most meats except chicken and pork, and some dairy. People with blood type B should avoid wheat, corn, lentils, tomatoes, and a few other food types.
And I'm going to be talking about blood type O. And so basically with type O blood, O negative is the universal blood type donor, which means that any blood type can receive O negative blood. And unfortunately, if you have O negative blood, you can only receive from O negative. So while you can give your blood to everybody, you can only receive a specific type. O positive also happens to be the most common blood type, with 37% of the overall population having it. And what it means to have O type blood is that there are no A or B antigens in the blood, but there are anti-A and anti-B antibodies. And O negative blood is very common in hospitals and is often on hand because it's the safest blood to give to newborns who are immune deficient. Some advantages to having blood type O. It happens to be the only blood type that doesn't have the ABO gene, which can increase your risk of a heart attack. And not only this, but it can lead to memory loss and even later on in life dementia. And you may be at lesser risk for developing cancers if you have this blood type. Sometimes issues can arise if you are a mother with blood type O and you happen to have a baby with blood type A or B. But if this does happen, this doesn't mean you have to be afraid. It can be taken care of in the hospital. You just have to be aware of it. And so this is a chart showing the commonality of blood types. Basically, about 10% of the population has type B, 44 has type O, 41% has type A, and 4% has type AB. And as we noted below, this is not exactly to scale.
Okay, so now we need to discuss how blood types connect to our class of Chem 110. So firstly, on the back end of this class, we learned a lot about pH, and blood is slightly basic, and it becomes actually really dangerous if it becomes more acidic. And this is important because we learned in Chem 110 all about how pH, all about how it changes and everything, and we need to make sure that blood stays slightly basic in the body because it's really dangerous to a human if it becomes more acidic. Also, there's the issue of oxygen transport. Blood transfers oxygen from the lungs to all over the body. Blood needs to maintain this function because it's obviously really important to have oxygen over your body just to perform basic functions. And also, we should touch on structure. The structure that is shown here is actually the structure of hemoglobin, which is blood. And we learned a lot about this in Chem 110, like line angle structures and all that. And this just represents the complexity of blood.
And we also happen to learn about physical properties. So a major physical property of blood is its metallic odor. And basically blood is given its signature metallic odor because of iron reacting with oxygen in the air after it leaves your body. We also learned a lot about density. And so the density of blood is very similar to the density of water, but if your blood density changes, it can become really dangerous in issues with clotting. Basically, if your density is too high, what can happen is your blood can clot when you don't want it to, and that can be super dangerous and for your health. Or if the density is too low, and that means that your blood is thinned out, then if you get injured, your blood won't be able to clot, and so you'll just continue to bleed, and that can also be extremely dangerous. So either way, you do not want your blood density fluctuating. We also learned about in the unknown substances lab, the vinegar test. And this is a test that you can use for cancer screening. So the vinegar will basically collect on the cancer cells or tumors and make the cancer visible. So thank you for listening.
And here's all of our sources.